Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Additional questions also for Mr. and Ms. Dargani, also in relation to the lawyers that Mr. Dargani talked about with Senping, Mr. Chairman. The next question.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Dargani and Ms. Dargani as well. My questions will also be about your bold escape to Malaysia. Alam niyo, Mr. Dargani, Ms. Dargani, sinabihan ako nung isa sa mga abogado niyo, isa sa apat na pinag-usapan niyo ngayon kasama ni Senping, si Attorney Topacio. Sinabihan ako nila na lalagyan daw ako ng medyas sa bibig. I should put a sock in my mouth, ika niya. Ang tanong, ako ba talaga ang may medyas sa bibig? O yung mga taong ayaw magsalita ng diretso, ayaw magbigay ng simpleng dokumento? Sino ba yung abysmally pathetic, quote again the words of that year of yours? Kaming mga senador, in the exercise of our oversight powers,
Di
o
ba
yung
contemptuous conduct yun, sasabihin ng isang abogado?
yes, Mr.
Tactical yun.
Chairman. O, o yung mga taong ayaw magsalita ng diretsyo, ayaw magbigay ng dokumento. Hindi ba yun yung ah, abysmally pathetic? Yung mga tumatakas ng palihim na parang magnanakaw sa gabi. Well, parang malinaw naman yung sagot dyan. So, please allow me to proceed to my questions, Mr. Chairman. During the October 28th hearing, it was revealed that Mohit Dargani paid only 97,241 pesos and that Twinkle Dargani only 1,000 pesos. Yet, the cost paid to Seletar was 37,000 US dollars. That's around 1.85 million pesos for just one flight. So let me confirm, Mr. Dargani, is this amount what you paid?
I don't remember the exact amount in pesos or in dollars because it is the advanced by our friend, by our family
But,
friend.
and this friend, did he or she pay that amount around $37,000 or around 1.85 million
It
pesos?
should be.
Or did he
It
or
should be
she pay
correct.
an even higher amount
I think it's within that bracket, within that range.
within the range of $37,000 or higher than $37,000?
I really cannot. I really don't know that exact amount. I did not see the page that you showed me. I was not never given a chance to see that also.
Well, Mr. Chairman, my office actually did a dummy booking at yung quoted amount was upwards in fact of 90,000 US dollars dahil in-account din po yung flight mula Singapore kung saan galing yung eroplano hanggang Davao. So, Mr. Dargani, if you say that you don't know the exact amount, you did not see the document, you were not the one who had it drawn up, who chartered the flight? Sabi nyo, friend nyo. So, who
Yeah,
was that friend?
it was our friend that paid for it, but I found the uh, companies. I was the one that did my search to look for the companies that could provide the chartered service, and I sent it to my friend overseas to handle it for me.
And who looked for those chartered flight companies? And who was that friend to whom you sent the information?
Um, I was the one who searched, did the initial search. Just to put it also on record, that I just want to say that we did not do this to escape or to hide from the investigations. Like I said in in the last hearing that I attended, I was just exerting my rights, and the documents that was asked from me and my sister, we have provided. All the subpoena duces tecum that was addressed to me and Twinkle, we have provided. We have complied. The documents that are being asked from me was never addressed to me up until we were already detained here in the Senate compound. and we had to humbly refuse to receive that subpoena with those documents because it may bring prejudice to our case that we filed, to the petition that we filed in the Court of Appeals.
Unfortunately, Mr. Dargani, nagmukha po talaga sa amin until the Senate OSAA were able to prevent your taking that flight with Miss Twinkle Dargani na tumatakas nga kayo sa amin. And in fact, nung una kayong na-intercept ng Senate OSAA, sinubukan mo pang tumakbo. So again, uh, what seems to be very plain to our sight na pagtakas. If I can just go back to the earlier point we were discussing, pagkatapos niyong i-search yung mga iba't ibang impormasyon about companies that could provide your chartered flight, kaninong friend niyo pinadala yung mga impormasyong ito?
To our friend overseas.
Who was this friend overseas, Mr. Dargani?
I would like to keep him private at this point.
So this is a man. In what country is this male friend based?
I would like to keep his identity and his origin, his privacy. So at
Alam
this
niyo ba how much that male friend of yours based abroad paid for the chartered flight?
It was not as to the amount that you were showing of the 90 plus thousand, definitely, because I think I would have not agreed to that also.
So you agreed to the $37,000 price tag on the flight.
Because when I was doing my research, it was around that range. It was going
And
between 35,000 to around I think 50, 55, somewhere there.
so
There
the
are some that
range,
I saw at 70, pero I think it also depends on the plane and the day, etc.
so nung nagre-research kayo, yung range of prices na na-research nyo was 15 to $55,000 for the flight.
35 po. 35,000 to
35
55.
35 to
Yeah.
$55,000.
But there
So
are also the other ones like, at an expensive price, depending again on the plane that you choose
yes.
or the one
And
that's available.
and kung umabot man ng yung upper range na $55,000, it seems reasonable to you. So posibleng umabot ng 55,000 yung binayad nung male friend nyo based abroad for
I
this
really,
flight.
I really don't know the final amount, but I don't think it would have reached that much also.
All right. When did you arrive in Davao, Mr. Dargani?
We arrived in Davao, I believe, early November because we were uh, traveling from one place to another place. I just had to do this because I was doing this as a son for my mother and for my sister who's fighting mental health. I believe you're an advocate of mental health, Madam Senator.
That is
And it
right,
just
Mr.
pains
Dargani.
me seeing my sister in a condition where she doesn't even know her name anymore. She graduated summa cum laude on a dean's lister. But seeing her go through so much with my mom, who has been through more than 10 or 12 operations in her life, I came back to the Philippines just to be with them. Not we're not hiding. I was in the States. They did not want me to come back. They wanted me there. But I came back because they're my home. They're my safe place. I needed my safe place. But right now when we were together, even though we were together, we couldn't be safe. We were not safe with each other. We always had to be in hiding, moving from one place to another place.
I do empathize with your sister's mental health concerns, Mr. Dargani. As the daughter also of a mother who's a senior citizen, I do empathize with her health concerns and hope that she will continue to recover from her
When we
operations.
got
Please
here, the
allow
first thing
me
I
to
asked was
pose,
a
yes,
psychiatrist.
please allow
But
me
we still don't
to
have
pose
one
some
for
more
her.
questions. All that the Blue Ribbon Committee is seeking to establish are accurate and complete answers to our questions. Na lahat nito will also help create a more conducive environment for all the better things we want to happen. The object of the Blue Ribbon to make sure that there is good and not malgovernance, And I think even in our private lives, these can only help us. So with
We really
that
believe with the
expression of
ongoing
the
investigation.
empathy
And
that our committee shares, please allow me to ask you some further questions,
yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Dangani. You told us na dumating kayo sa Davao in early November. What date in early November was that?
I think it was November 1 or 2.
November 1 or 2?
Our
At
we
sa
spent our what I remember is we spent our Indian New Year Diwali in
Diwali.
Davao. Yes.
All right.
We went to the
Now,
Hindu temple over there.
alright. Sabi rin ninyo, you arrived in Davao 1 or 2 November, but you had been transferring from place to place before then. What other places did you stop on your way to Davao on November 1 or 2?
Well, we were traveling by land, so we were just in the car from. We were going here in from. I mean, from Manila, we were going to the south. We were going. We even went north, and then further went down, drive to Sorsogon, etc., until we
Mhm,
reached Leyte and Surigao and
mhm.
Davao.
So you took Roro probably in order to travel to long drive from Manila to
Yes,
the south, to the north, to Sorsogon, to Leyte, to Surigao, and finally to Davao. Is that
that's
right?
correct. Yeah,
All right. And where in Davao did you stay?
we stayed in Camela North Point.
Okay.
Yeah, because
Bella North.
that's the when we check on Airbnb, that's the place where there's a lot of units available. But we
All
did not
right.
book through the Airbnb. When we got there, security guards had a list of homeowners or representatives that were giving their units for lease or on rent on a day-to-day basis.
Okay. Taga Davao ba kayo, Mr. Dargani?
No, Your Honor.
You're not. Our records in fact do state na Manila-based kayo. So, sino ang kilala nyo sa Davao?
We do not know anyone in Davao. The reason why we went to Davao or we chose
Yes,
Davao,
that's why I asked that.
I gave my mom an option. I asked her, where do you feel safe? Where do you want me to drive to? You want Cebu? You want Davao? She was like, just take me to the furthest point where we can feel safe. I said, okay. I don't know anyone in Davao. I don't know anyone in Cebu either.
Mm-hmm.
But based on my research, it was easier for us to move around in Davao because there's a lot of Indian restaurants, there's an Indian grocery, there's an Hindu temple. It felt more secured for my mom and my sister. So that's the only reason why we chose Davao.
All right. Pero finally, I mean, why did you finally decide to fly out from Davao when actually, without taking all those long drives, taking the Roro, finding an Airbnb, you could just as easily, baka nga mas madaling to have flown out of Manila na lang kasi dito kayo nanggaling. Why did you finally, and for example, between Cebu and Davao, why did you finally decide to fly out from Davao sa halip na pwede namang sabihan yung male friend nyo abroad to charter a flight for you out of Manila? Why did you finally decide to fly out from Davao and nowhere else?
Actually, we did not, when we went to Davao, it was with no plans that we wanted to fly out. It was just that our mother's health and my sister's health was deteriorating. Seeing them waking up, seeing them cry, it was just painful to me. I was really just doing everything that I can as a son at that point. And
Hindi
if,
ba? If our family members' health is deteriorating, we wouldn't put them through the stresses and the strains, lalo na of land travel, mas matagal, mas nakakapagod. Kung gusto talaga nating lumipad out of the country, wouldn't it have made more sense to fly out of Manila? Kaya nagtataka ako why you took the long route, the more tiring route. Uh, in fact, yun na nga, why did you fly out at all? Samantalang alam nyo naman na may warrant of arrest.
uh, the plan of flying out wasn't there when we went to Davao. It was just after 2 weeks. that since we were in Davao, that my mom said, please let us get out of here.
All right. That's interesting, Mr. Dargani, na nung una kayong nag-long drive from Manila along those many stops sa Luzon, sa Visayas, finally sa Mindanao, particularly Davao, sabi nyo, wala pa kayong plano when you started out to fly out. But 2 weeks into this journey, then uh, you decided to fly out. What was the turning point? How did you come up with that decision and that plan? And are you telling us na during the long drive, nung nasa long drive kayo, road trip, that was when you were researching about the cost of a chartered flight na nalaman mo 35 to $55,000? Was it on this long drive na while you were driving na binabato mo dun sa male friend mo abroad and that he made the arrangements? How did this decision finally
No,
crystallize?
it was not, none of the flying out plans were there when we were on the drive. When we were on the drive, we were looking to get our safe place, trying to
Mhm.
find a place that's safe for us three, where we can just be ourselves, go out and be ourselves, go to the doctor. In Camela North Point, it's right beside the hospital. It's right beside the MC HI, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
So it's it's more suitable for our needs. We only needed a doctor. I needed a doctor to see my sister, and it was only there that my sister was prescribed medications as well, and it was not helping. And since we were there, we did not know how long more these things would last, and my mom was just asking us to get out. So I said, okay, but that it's for humanitarian purpose. It was really do what my mom wanted me to do, and I had to do it also for my sister because I could see her mental health deteriorating.
Mr. Dargani, um, I I need to ask you uh, my earlier question again, and I need to request you uh, very earnestly, strongly, to please answer the committee. Uh, Importante para sa amin to really complete this story through this investigation. That you please tell us who was this friend to whom you sent yung mga research mo about the 35 to $55,000 price tag just on the flight for a chartered flight. This male friend abroad who finally chartered that flight for you with Celetar. Because I have to tell you that it would constitute obstruction of justice if you were not to tell the committee kung sino ang tumulong sa inyo to contract that flight. Which kung hindi lang dahil sa Senate o SAA, nakalipad na sana kayo palabas ng Pilipinas despite the committee's warrant of arrest. So please, one more time, please tell us who was this male friend based abroad, Mr. Dargani.
Madam Senator, as much as I would want to answer your question, I don't have my lawyers with me, my legal counsel with me. I may say something that may self-incriminate myself. So I would like to humbly request if I could invoke my right against self-incrimination.
Well, you may certainly invoke that right, Mr. Dargani, but I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I will seek the guidance of the chair and the legal guidance of my lawyer colleagues here in the committee, because otherwise I would push that Mr. Dargani be noted as committing obstruction of justice in not naming this male friend abroad who actually chartered the flight on which they were almost able to leave, to escape the country, if not for the Senate OSAA. Mr. Chairman and dear colleagues, may I seek your advice on this? If I may properly move to cite Mr. Dargani as obstructing
Let me
justice
show you
against
this.
his spouse.
Rule 18.
Mr.
Uh,
Chairman?
yes, yes. First of all, I'd like to show you Article 150, and then later on, I'll show you another thing. Now, Article 150 provides that, you know, if you refuse to heed the summons of the National Assembly or subcommittees like the Blue Ribbon Committee, uh, you will be charged uh, with a criminal complaint, which the Department of Justice can file. No, or for example, he, without legal excuse, refuses to obey such summons or being present before any such legislative or constitutional body or official, refuses to be sworn or placed under affirmation, or to answer any legal inquiry or to produce any books, papers, documents, or records in his possession when required by them to do so in the exercise of their functions. We're clearly exercising the functions of the Blue Ribbon Committee. And therefore, I remind Mr. Dargani that it's well within our rights to require you to answer these questions. These are not difficult questions uh, to answer. I mean, uh, uh, let me point out this way: there's no need for you to run, but you're obviously running. Why? That's a sign of guilt. That's a cardinal principle. When a person runs, it's a clear sign of guilt. Now, there is also another section, uh, 151 and section 18. Ano yun? Resistance and disobedience to a person and authority or the agents of such person. The penalty of arresto mayor and a fine not exceeding 500 pesos shall be imposed upon any person who, not being included in the provisions of the preceding article, shall resist or seriously disobey any person in authority or the agents of such person while engaged in the performance of official duties. Mr. Dargani, when you were captured in the plane and you were brought down, you were worried, you say, about your mother. And yet, you tried to escape. You ran away. You were going to leave your mother and your poor sister. You know, will you please stop lying and come to the point? I mean, I would have empathy with you. But
Mr.
you know,
Chairman, when I ran back to the plane to
finish.
hug my mother.
No, no, you did
Not
not. You ran
the,
away from the plane. You want
no,
me to
Mr.
give you some?
Chairman, I ran to the plane. The chase was going back to the plane.
No, well, anyway, don't argue with. You can argue with me, and
I'm not
I'm just
arguing, Mr.
that's
Chairman.
part
I'm
of
just
the uh na Juan, you know, I sympathize with your mother. She's not at fault. I almost want to sympathize with your sister, but as you say, she was summa cum laude. I don't want to ask your sister because I would take your word for it. Na, of course, this is very harrowing experience, di ba? All of us know that. But you put her there as president of the company. Did you not?
it was not just my call. It was a board decision.
A board. We asked you about that, and you did not say it at that time. Now it's the board decision. Now, even if it was a board decision, you gave her a car costing 25 million pesos. And she accepted, and she did not pay taxes for it. Neither did you pay taxes or documentary stamp tax, correct?
That's correct.
That's correct. All right. Now, would you have been in her mental condition, best mental condition, when she accepted the car?
No,
Aren't you putting
and
her life in danger? She would be driving a very high performance car, and she's not in the mental condition that we would want to have her. Why would you give her a car like that? Assuming for the sake of argument, I'm not going to. And besides, were you could have appealed to the Senate about that earlier. Why would you take your sister, according to you, she was being tortured emotionally on a long drive? By the way, did you rent a car?
I borrowed a car,
Maybe you know who, whatever, man. Who did you borrow the car from?
also from a friend.
There you go again, being in the gray area, in the dark area. Who is this friend?
Uh, just someone who used to work for our family before, but he
And of
left
course, he has
also.
a name, right? I'm not being
I would
aggressive. I'm just trying to
I just
uh,
don't want
draw
whenever
the.
we name names, people will get involved and brought up, and it just drags on. So, for the
Well, no,
sake
no.
of that
You
person's
they get
family,
involved because you involve them, right? They would not have gotten involved if you did not ask them. You know, it's a crime to to allow a person to escape, aiding and abetting.
Again, if I had a
I'm sure
presence of
you're
a
aware of
lawyer
that, right?
here, if I had the presence of my lawyer, then maybe I could answer the question properly. But I don't have my lawyers here with me, so I cannot
But
confer with them
you can always
privately.
call her, call him.
Yes,
You have obviously a battery of lawyers, but obviously even you would know that. I mean, why would you involve other people? And now you don't want to say who paid for the plane. They're
Mr.
saying
Chairman.
$25,000 to $50,000. Uh,
Mr. Chairman.
that's not small money.
Yes. Mr. Chairman.
I'm just following your question because you asked us, and I don't wanna I don't wanna intervene with you, but I just have no empathy for Mr. Mohit Dargani because una sasabihin nila hindi walang kaalam-alam yung kapatid niya, presidente ng corporation. Isinubo mo yung kapatid mo eh. Assuming I can believe you, you were the one who put her in that position. Nobody else forced you. You put her there. And you were using her name to do all these foolish things. Okay, I will now give in to, obviously, you're not going to answer that again. I will now give in to uh, Senator Pangilinan, and then I'll go to Senator Rizal Antiveros. Go ahead, Mr. Pangilinan.
Yes, just to
Follow up
respond.
to Senator Antiveros' question.
Yes, just to respond to the earlier question of Senator Ontiveros. When I was chairperson of, when this representation was chairperson of the Committee on Agriculture, a similar situation wherein a witness in the hearings on rice smuggling refused to divulge the information regarding who his funder was. He was in his mid 20s, the witness, and was able to raise resources to the tune of around 90 million, if I'm not mistaken. And so when we asked him who his funder was, he refused to answer. And under the Arnold ruling, a refusal to answer is contemptible behavior. And until he chooses to answer, he will remain in contempt of the Senate, and he will remain in detention. And after 2 months, this witness finally agreed to name the funder. And with that answer, he cleared himself of the contempt, and he was released. Just for the information of Senator Ontiveros and our colleagues.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Sen Kiko. May I, Mr. Chairman?
Let me just add, in
Yes,
response
Mr.
to your
Chairman.
question, under our rules on the conducting the investigations, Section 19, privilege against self-incrimination, and I quote, a witness can invoke his right against self-incrimination only when a question which stands to elicit an answer that would incriminate him is propounded to him. However, he may offer to answer any question in an executive session. The second paragraph says no person can refuse to testify or be placed under oath or affirmation or answer questions before an incriminatory question is asked. His invocation of such right does not by itself excuse him from his duty to give testimony. In such a case, the committee by a majority vote of the members present there being a quorum shall determine whether the right has been properly invoked. If the committee decides otherwise, it shall resume its investigation and the question or questions previously refused to be answered shall be repeated to the witness. If the latter continues to refuse to answer the question, the committee may punish him for contempt or contumacious conduct. I hope I have answered the question of the distinguished lady from Taguig, is it, or Panay?
Oh, no, Mr. Chairman, from Panay Island. Thank
Okay.
you, Mr. Chairman. Therefore, Mr. Chairman, based on the inputs of the chairman and of Sen Kiko, for which I thank my colleagues, first, I would like to make a record and for the attention of Mr. Dargani that your male friend based abroad would also be liable for obstruction of justice. And secondly, and more immediately, Mr. Chairman, I note that at least one of the lawyers of Mr. and Ms. Dargani is present here. One of those he named earlier to Sen Ping, one of the four. I see that he is here in this meeting. And during the rest of this hearing, Mr. Dargani could seek that counsel that he says he is without from his lawyer. I hope I will post again before the chairman suspends this hearing later. I will pose again my last remaining question to Mr. Dargani. Who is this male friend of his based abroad who chartered the flight for them out of Davao onwards to Kuala Lumpur? Because otherwise, before the chairman suspends this hearing, I will be forced to move to cite Mr. Dargani in obstruction of justice for not naming the said friend. For the record, Mr. Chairman.
Uh, I have not made an announcement to suspend the hearing.
No, Mr. Chairman, that's why before the chairman does so later,
Oh yeah, okay.
I will ask Mr. Dargani one last time to please tell the committee the answer to that important question. Thank you, Mr.
The question
Chairman.
is reasonable as it has always been, and it
Thank you,
doesn't
Mr.
have to
Chairman.
be
Thank you.
a very contentious matter. You have your
Mm.
lawyer, and we will rule, and that is the way it is. These are simple questions. You ask these people to help you, and now you want to shield them. Well, that's not your right anymore because they're part and parcel of your escape. Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Chairman, may I be able to communicate with our legal counsel, Attorney Don Capunan?
Yes, Don Capunan is known to us. He's appeared in the Blue Ribbon Committee. Go ahead. We have never. I've always
I'll just
been
I'll
very
just
particular
move.
about making sure that the lawyers are present.
Oh, yes, Mr. Chairman. Earlier, I saw Mr. Dargani raising his hand. I was hoping he's now ready to
He's talking
answer
to
my last
lawyer. I
question.
mean, is that Mr. Capunan here?
Your Honor, please.
Yes, Don. Go
May I
ahead.
be
Sorry, Don.
recognized?
Okay, Don Rico Capunan.
Good afternoon, honorable senators. May I be allowed to just confer with my client through the phone given to the OSAA phone that where I communicate with
Yes,
them?
yes, of course.
Yes. Thank you
Yes,
so
yes.
much, Your Honor.
We've never stopped you from comparing with your client, but you're aware of the rules as well, right?
Definitely, Your Honor.
Thank you.